In this episode, we're diving into one of the biggest, brightest, and most unforgettable albums of the late 70s, Breakfast in America by Supertramp. It's catchy, polished, a little weird, and loaded with that mix of sharp lyrics, big hooks, and keyboard-driven sound that made Supertramp stand apart. Stay with us.
Get ready for the 3324 podcast, where lifelong friends Dean Legiro and Eric Kuber share their love of all things music and movies. Dean has directed short films and is a music trivia buff. And Eric, trained in audio engineering, brings his extensive knowledge of music and film to the conversation as they discuss, debate, and celebrate their favorite albums, films, and much more.
Welcome, friends, to the 3324 podcast. If you grew up with album covers in your bedroom and movie posters on your wall, then this is the place for you. We welcome you. Come on in, pull up an extra chair. We always have extra seats available. We have a really big space that we use, so there's always we can pretty much host a lot of people. So just pull up a chair and you'll be fine.
Indeed.
That's it. Okay, good.
That's my one word. That's my one word response. Indeed.
They don't call him the best color man in the business for nothing.
Yeah.
like Bruce Willis in The Fifth Element.
Yeah.
Where just like you know.
Yeah.
What one word?
Yeah.
You know, very, very monotone. Chris Rock. Anyway, a different episode. One really great thing we'd like you to do is if you want to interact with us on your podcast provider within the show notes or somewhere in the episode description is a little thing that says fan mail, a little button. If you want to reach out to us, talk about this episode, go ahead and do that. While it's hot, while it's on your mind, go ahead and tap that and send us a message. We respond to them. We love to interact and talk with people that are listening. We love to hear points of views, favorite tracks, or differing opinions. Those are always cool too, because like 99% of the stuff here is probably made up outside of the stats.
There's nothing wrong with that.
We just do this podcast to see if anybody's checking.
Yeah. See, we're full of shit.
Is one long social experiment about whether or not people check things. Part of the social experiment today is Mr. Christopher Clark.
I'm always happy to be a part of a social experiment.
Yeah, it's fun, right?
Yeah, always a good time.
Especially when I just revealed it now, and you've been doing this with us for like, I don't know, almost 2 years.
Yeah. I think it's more than 2 years now, man.
Is it? Holy crap.
I believe it might be. So
we got to find out your birth date.
June 15th, 1979.
No. I mean your podcast birth date. What was the first episode you were on? You must know that.
It was the top 5 drummers.
Okay, we'll go back and find out when your birth date was.
Yeah.
You get a free slice of cake. I'll give you a coupon for Cheesecake Factory.
There you go.
So, we are talking about Breakfast in America by Supertramp. As we do with every episode, we've got the stats, and then we'll get into the fun part and talking about it. Really, one very interesting stat, which I saved till the end. But there's a lot of cool things about this album. And Supertramp is such a, the more I listen to the album and read about them, it was such a strange, group, such a strange dynamic. We'll put it that way. But anyway, we'll save that for a moment. Let's get into the stats. This album was released in March 1979. It took almost a year to record. It was like April of 78 to February of 79, something like that. I mean, it was really a big process. Produced by Peter Henderson and Supertramp. There were 4 singles released from this album. The Logical Song hit number 6. Breakfast in America, number 62. Goodbye Stranger, 15. Take the Long Way Home, number 10. So they came out strong and languished in the middle and then finished strong, which is good. They won 2 Grammys, this album. It won for Best Engineered Non-Classical Recording. Okay. That's a mouthful.
I was just going to say that.
Which is, so I guess the other category is Best Engineered Classical Recording. So classical gets its own thing, and then everything else is non-classical?
I guess
What's that about?
What is it about classical that is?
Yeah, why is everything but classical lumped in something? And then it also won the Grammy for Best Recording Package, and we will talk about the album cover in a little bit too.
Yep.
That again, this was in the era when that was really album covers were the thing. So 2 Grammys there. It was hit number 1 on Billboard for 6 weeks. It was in for 4. It dipped out and then back for 2, which was kind of nice. There was a lot of that in '79. There was a lot of that going on. A lot of songs, a lot of albums like leaving, then coming back, and leaving and coming back, and just kind of trading places. Again, it's just a wild time. This went 4 times platinum, over 4 million sold. Banger.
Yeah, it was the only one they had like that. Like, I mean, there was kind of like
everything
else around gold.
Yeah. They were okay.
Right.
Their album sold consistently for whatever that term means. For them, and then boom. Supertramp not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I think Eric, we talked about it we all talked about it on the Bryan Adams episode. I think when you have an album that's like like All You Need Is One, this is all they needed, was like, they have all the other stuff, which shows their longevity. But then you cap off for pretty much their career. They did record a live album, then an album after this, with the original core group. When you cap it off like this, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
What better way to go out?
Everything's sort of leading up to this moment.
Yeah.
We
They're
talk
a pretty
about
influential band too.
Yeah. We talk a lot about refinement. So here it is.
Yeah.
So
this is going to be a really interesting conversation because Supertramp is such a hard group for me to kind of fit in somewhere. Here's a very interesting stat. Okay. Breakfast in America by Supertramp is the biggest selling English language album of all time in France.
See, that doesn't surprise me.
Somehow it doesn't.
And in the top 10 English language albums in France that are top selling, the Beatles, the Stones never even appear in the top 10.
That is,
but Breakfast in America is the number 1 selling English language album of all time in France.
See,
that one.
See, like, and it's interesting for me because, like, whenever I think of the band Supertramp, my friends who lived on the campus when I was in college, they had I guess he must have been like a travel abroad student from Europe and lived in one of the rooms in the house. He was obsessed with Supertramp. Like obsessed, like, and it just like, and I never understood it because I was never a Supertramp fan when I was a kid, but like, it was just, so to me that makes sense because I've seen like what somebody from Europe thought of Supertramp. They were like way down the hole of that band. So
yeah, I mean this album sold I think 4 million here, but I think over 20 million worldwide.
And then I was having this discussion. I was reading an article from Prague Magazine where it said, if you consider that, I mean, and I guess I would consider it a prog album for a bunch of different reasons, but apparently it is the second biggest selling prog rock album in history, second only to Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd.
Yeah. Okay, so you literally took me by the hand and brought me to my first note about Supertramp. And the first thing I wrote is, what are these guys? Because on Wikipedia it says progressive and it says progressive pop. These guys are an English band. And when you think, and we've got, the 2 experts here to back it up. When you think English prog, you think synthesizers, right? You think Rick Wakeman and
Keith Emerson,
Banks and King, like you think when you think English prog, you think of a certain kind of sound or a certain kind of, like feeling. And Supertramp is none of that. Supertramp is like acoustic instruments. Yeah, they use keyboards, but they don't use synths. They use electric pianos. They use harmonicas. They use saxophones, and this is something that you would more find in an American progressive, like a Kansas or something. You know what I'm saying? Like so what are these guys? Are they prog?
I would say, I would say just insofar as like, not so much necessarily, there's not, and the one thing, and whenever I read about it, like when it comes up in context of prog, it's got nothing to do so much with like the long songs. Cause everybody's like, well, on this record, there's only one song that's over 6 minutes long. And it's the album closer and all that stuff. I think it's more for the fact that there's not a lot of guitars on it. There's a lot of like horns and interesting arrangements and like kind of like an everything but the kitchen sink type of vibe. Like there's a lot of different styles at play, and they're all kind of filtered through pop. But I just think what makes them progressive is that they're not afraid to like take chances and like do things that are not necessarily what you would hear in a traditional pop song in 1979 necessarily.
Yeah, I agree with that. And their arrangements.
Yes.
The melodies, there's a lot of changes within the songs. So that has a lot to do with it too. I don't think, like I said, I don't, prog to me is always doing more. And to me, it's very, very Beatlesque in,
Right.
in their approach.
But prog artists definitely nod to the Beatles all the time. So I don't think that.
This is taking them and sort of taking those sensibilities in the sense of having, you hear horns in the background, you hear like, and we're not talking about like rhythmic sort of dance driven type stuff. We're talking like French horn, like boom, 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 like tubas and
dance hall
and things like that. Like just very interesting, sort of almost jazzy arrangements.
And there's a theatricality to it as well too.
Eric, you just landed what I was going to say next. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Eric, is Steely Dan prog?
No. Well,
okay. Because I kind of, when I was kind of regarding Supertramp, I'm like, I feel like they have more in common with Steely Dan, not in sound, but in form and function. They kind of lean towards that. The arrangements are very clean. The production is super sharp. They use more traditional instruments than what we think of as, Moody Blues and all the prog of that time,
Yeah.
These guys have are closer to that in my mind. Like after, especially listening to this album, I feel like, okay, these are kind of like cousins, not direct blood, but I feel there's more in common with them. Chris, is Steely Dan prog for you?
I always think of them more of like a fusion band.
Okay.
Kind of
I agree.
More in the same league of like a Weather Report or a Return to Forever kind of vibe, so that's kind of where I categorize them. I think this is more like, what I think makes this progressive is not so much, the long songs or the crazy far out jams or any of that kind of stuff. I think what makes this progressive is more that, like I said before, like that everything but the kitchen sink kind of vibe to it. Like you've got some rock and roll, you've got some pop, you've got jazz, and I think that's why they're proggy. Like Eric said, the different arrangements and the time signatures, and to me, more than anything else, is I always think of prog as having like a certain element of theater or theatricality to it. This record to me feels very theatrical, right from that opening, from the opening cut all the way through. So that's where I get the prog in. But it's also interesting too, because like I listened to this on Spotify this week, and when, like you guys know, when you come to the end of Spotify, if you have a certain setting on, it'll play songs that are kind of like in the league of what you're listening to. And when I did it with this one, it was like it went from Bob Seger to the Police to Steely Dan to Steve Hackett era Genesis, and it was like, it's almost like it didn't know. It's almost like the algorithm didn't know what to categorize it as.
Feel its way around,
right? So to me, that in and of itself makes it a prog record. As far as
all right.
I would say art rock is probably a more accurate title.
I'll take it. Yeah, I just think prog carries a certain connotation with it.
A stigma.
And I just don't think these guys really.
Yeah, I would agree. A stigma is a better word.
Whatever you want to call it, but I think that this just kind of feels separate from it. It feels a little bit apart from it.
Yeah. This is just
sorry,
Rolling Stone. I'm just reading a review for Rolling Stone. It's on Wikipedia. Says that Stephen Holden, this was back in the day, he said that Breakfast in America was an improvement over the swatches of meandering Genesis-like esoterica.
There you go.
So that's what I was going to say. It's like it's prog, but it doesn't fall into all the traps of like what prog became at the end of the song.
Indeed, you're saying like synths and this and it's like, but prog could be very acoustic as well. I think
it can, but like I was saying, like the reputation that prog has.
I get it. People immediately think Pink Floyd, they immediately think Rush.
Yes,
They immediately think,
Roger
Hodgson does have the same kind of like Geddy Lee type voice, right? I guess
he does. So let's
very unique. Yeah.
Let's start there. So Supertramp is a 5-piece. The two main songwriters are Roger Hodgson and Rick Davies. And they are very different in their approach to songwriting. Almost very much when I was listening to this album, like a lot of times this album is like having Lennon and McCartney singing on the same song, because Rick Davies has such a cynical. His voice is a little rougher, so it kind of mimics, but for me takes the place of a John Lennon. And then Roger Hodgson has like that can be angelic or sweeter voice, which is like a McCartney, right? Like the yin and the yang. And a lot of the songs when they're singing together, I kind of get you getting the best of both worlds on one song, like Goodbye Stranger. Like you have Rick Davies with that kind of little gruffer, sandpapery vocal, and then all of a sudden Roger comes in and it's like this angelic, thing. And I think their vocal interplay is part of the magic on this album, not just the individual songs, but when they're interplaying together. I think it's real, especially on the opening cut.
Yeah, there's the harmonies on that as well.
Yeah,
oh, fantastic.
So, yeah,
on Gone Hollywood. I mean, so
it's such an odd intro, isn't it? Like it's such those lower, like it's like almost, I wouldn't say downbeat, but just sort of like it starts that way. Even the notes just go down. Like it's just an odd.
Yeah, it's like a minor key almost.
Minor key, right? Exactly, minor notes, and I just love that the way it just kind of breaks, and then you hear the song just kind of slows down, and then these saxes come in and creates a mood. So that for me, it's very jazzy. I would put that more in a sort of jazz category,
which
sort of
more
fusion.
Them closer to Steely Dan,
but then
but Steely Dan is more like up, the sort of, but very soulful as well. They could be very,
Goodbye Stranger,
sort of R&B flavored. Steely Dan has that.
Goodbye Stranger for me. That one was almost like I actually texted my brother this morning. I said, has Goose ever covered this? Because this sounds like something Goose would have done. Because to me, that song, you almost bring in an element of like a jam band without like it being like overly long or bloated, but it goes into that that like groove at the end. It sounds like something like Fish or the Grateful Dead.
Oh,
or
absolutely. The drums kick in and the guitar, and it's just it's one of the more.
So now, here's a mind blown, and maybe Eric, I don't know as well. When in watching Supertramp or just being exposed to Supertramp in a casual, passive way, I would always see Roger Hodgson behind a keyboard.
Yep,
he was always at a keyboard. I never knew that he was the lead guitarist. So when I'm listening to Goodbye Stranger, that's him like wailing on the guitar. I'm like, every time I see the guy in concert, he's behind a keyboard. He's never like soloing. And then I'm looking, I'm like, wait, who's the guitarist for Supertramp? And it's like Roger Hodgson, like guitar.
Well, interestingly enough, they both share those duties. The vocals, keyboards, they both,
but then he also
primary...
is the lead guitarist for Supertramp, which is kind of like
and no slouch.
Yeah, that's why my mind was blown. I'm like, he's always behind the keyboard. I'm like,
he almost reminds me of Steve Winwood in that respect. Of being the multi-instrumentalist, sort of like he could probably do this entire thing himself. And he probably, I think, right? I mean, his solo album, and he played everything
on his solo album.
Yeah.
And what makes Supertramp an interesting combination of people is that the two lead lyricists, Rick Davies and Roger Hodgson, were not really ever friends.
No,
they were just kind of like they came from different backgrounds. Rick Davies was more of a working class background. Roger was a little bit more, we'll say entitled. He went to private school, different other side of the tracks, as it were. But when they got together, they both, even Roger said, I appreciate our differences. I appreciate that there's buttons he pushes in me and there's buttons I push in him because of our upbringing, how we got along.
Yeah.
So they're, there was no bones about it. It was not like these guys ever pretended to be friends or all, like it was more of like a kind of a business relationship, where they would come in, they had co-writing credits on the songs. The publishing would say both of them, no matter who wrote it. And then then there were instances where it would split, but it was a very just kind of like a gentlemanly agreement. It's like we work together.
Yeah.
That's what, this is. So Supertramp was more like a business enterprise kind of from that aspect of not, we're coming up together and we're all for one, we're buddies. It's more like, we don't necessarily run in each other's circles, but when it's time to, but when we go to work, this is what we do.
Something that I think the British probably did better.
Yes, absolutely.
Than the American folks, right? I mean, duos.
Americans would get so upset. You're not my friend. You don't want to hang?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
You don't want to get afterwards? No, I don't.
Yeah. So, I mean, you look at some of the even the bands that, that actually did grow up together in those lead vocal, like Townsend and Daltrey. I mean, the yin yang of it is just so, they just love to hate each other kind of thing, but they work right? So swimmingly together, they just, Here, I don't think it was quite that bad. I don't know if it was that I think from this album, people were saying they were nothing but polite to one another.
Yeah. Yep.
But, again, I don't know what that means. Is it just
off-putting to someone? Like they were really polite. They seemed to get along, but they didn't. I don't know.
I mean, just chalk it up to being professional.
Yeah.
And,
the article I read said that they said the best time in the band was like in the mid 70s. They were all living together, and like working and like writing, and like it was really productive and egalitarian, all that kind of stuff. And I think right before this record, they tried to do the same thing in LA. And while there wasn't any kind of like major falling out or fighting, there was like kind of like, I guess, a break a little bit. And it's when like Roger Hodgson started getting into like, I don't know if I would call it a cult, but he kind of got really into this like religious group that was like going around LA at the time. And so it wasn't so much that they weren't getting along or not able to work together, but there was definitely like
drifting apart
or like personalities weren't the same. So they like did what they had to do. But he said, but the sax player whose name's escaping me, Rick, I can't think of his last name, but
sax player is John Helliwell.
John Helliwell, that's what it was. John Helliwell said something to the effect of like, there was never a crossword, there was never a yelling, there was never a shouting, but like there was definitely like differences in opinions, but they still managed to like get the work done. Yeah, I mean,
like, no, where's the passionate spark about like this song? We got to do it,
Well, like apparently in Roger Hodgson's, one of the songs he wanted to take off the record, and he had to be like, I guess, talked out of it or convinced, is he wanted to take the title track off the record. He didn't like it. Yeah,
it's crazy. Eric, does Roger Hodgson look like Grand Moff Tarkin if he was a hippie? I'm sorry, it's kind of there. I think we needed to kind of get. I just kind of needed to get that out there because you look like Peter Cushing.
They both have a very
angular
faces.
Slender chin.
Davies himself, very very pronounced noses and that kind of thing. So, but I don't know. Yeah, I could see it. Very, very thin, thin face.
Yeah, that angular, the cheekbones.
Yeah.
But before we get more into the music, let's talk about the album cover, because again, album covers were a thing, and it did win a Grammy for best, packaging or whatever they call it. I mean, it's just an iconic cover. It's one of those ones that probably people know, but don't even know that even though it says prominently Supertramp, that it's just one of those images that you've seen. It's probably been parodied, I'm sure, by Simpsons or Family Guy at some point. They probably get around to it. And it's that era of artwork and album covers as artwork, and we have to shout out, it was Mick Haggerty, and he worked with a partner on this one. But Mick Haggerty, this guy, you talk about Hypnosis and some of these other, Storm Thurgeson, whatever. Mick Haggerty, he did 2 ELO albums.
Mm-hmm.
He did Face the Music, and he did their live album When the Lights Went On Long Beach. He did Ghost in the Machine. He did the Beach Boys LA Light album. He did 3 albums for Bowie. He did Let's Dance, Tonight, and then another one. He did Tom Petty. He did 3 for Hall & Oates. So again, you talk about a guy that was just kind of, and that's among all the other stuff he did too. Thunderclap Newman, and he working his tail off. And again, it was such a great thing that there was these artists that specialized in doing album covers and doing album art, right? And which is just it's a really cool thing that was like a thing. Yeah. That there was a company you could go to, or people that you could go to with an idea or whatever, and they would be able to execute this for, because it was important.
It was part of the whole appeal,
the experience,
of music. It's a visual thing before applying it to music videos and things like that. You had this wonderful art. I mean, just sense of art. It's like having. I love putting album covers up on my wall, like just as an art piece. People have done it since the heyday. You walk into any used record store today, the walls are lined with that shit, and they're all like not even framed. They're just like sort of cracked and shitty condition, but it still looks great.
Yeah,
it adds a certain, it'll never lose its appeal.
Yeah,
it's unfortunate that. I mean, people are still doing it today, but I think it's a much different.
No, not at the level. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
and the fact that hypnosis, a lot of the, I mean, you don't realize like any of the hypnosis photographers, like they had to like make the image. It wasn't like they did it on a computer. It wasn't like they did it like they had to make that island and the lady looking like the Statue of Liberty as the waitress, like that. That all had to be really photographed.
Yeah, it was creating art, right? Roger Dean doing all the Yes covers. Those are painted. Those weren't done with Photoshop. He was, he had to.
Those were incredible.
And do all that detail, So these things were pieces of art, like, and especially something like Supertramp, where it's staged, and they had to build a faux Manhattan out of dishes and cups and mugs and plates and all that kind of stuff, which is a very unique idea. So there's a lot. It's not like, oh, draw me something. This was really something that was real, a real photo and a real photo shoot, and it might have been put together, but still just amazing.
I have to admit, I didn't realize that the Manhattan was done with like kitchen stuff until I watched a documentary about hypnosis, and I was like, "Ooh, how did I miss that?"
See that?
Yeah, I mean, it's just But then again, think about the times where the photographer goes to a location, like a real desert, or somebody. They fly halfway across the world to get these shots, and we talked about "Wish You Were Here." That shot of the diver. It's very, very precise. And it took, I don't know how many takes, or how many, whatever, but to get that one perfect shot of him, like sort of diving into that pool, which by the way, was somewhere so obscure, this little island somewhere, wherever they shot that thing.
It's dedication. It's a craft.
It's dedication. It's a craft. It's probably a lot of money was spent doing it, but it's like part of the,
it was part of the whole game,
part of the whole game, the marketing of these things.
An album cover that, made a statement or reflected, the material.
It had to be as strong as the music itself, if not more so, because we knew nothing about the music. We never got to hear stuff in advance, like we do today. Like YouTube puts out like, tracks ahead of time and all that kind of thing. The only time you ever heard that stuff was on the radio. If you were lucky, if you're listening to FM radio, oh, we got the new single, and then they play it, whatever. And this was not just hit. This was just a song, one particular track from the record. Sometimes it wasn't even the hit song. And then I always loved that too. I missed that, element.
If only NEW would come back.
Yeah.
Haggerty's, my least favorite like ELO album cover is the one he did, like Face the Music, of like the electric chair. It's like, come on. It's like,
it's what?
It's so weird. It's so just random.
So on the nose, right?
Time to face the music,
Yeah.
You going into the chair.
Anyway, then you got the back cover of them, like all like
faces pressed up against the glass. But let's get into this now. Here's a fun stat before we start talking about the album. Breakfast in America had more hit singles on this album than their first 5 albums combined.
Mm-hmm. That's wild.
So that shows you, that, another one of those bands, kind of like Steve Miller, that we bring up all the time, even Seeger to an extent, they're plugging away. Yeah. And then they just find that right, they put the key in and the notches line up and they're able to turn the lock and open the door. And that's what this album is. It's mm-hmm. probably one of the strongest or top 10 side ones.
Oh, for sure.
In rock music.
100%.
Not to disparage the second side, but the side one of this is just like,
Well, take the 4 singles and your, heavy rotation. Yeah. Still today, I mean, I don't think a day can go by without hearing at least one of those tracks.
Probably the Logical song.
The Logical song, I think you hear the most from this record. 100%.
I don't think it's the best. I don't think it's the best one.
Yeah,
but it's, it's such a. It's such an interesting listen because of just the traditional instruments that they were using at the time to achieve this. So it did make them stand out from other bands where you hear, like for me, like in listening to this, my favorite track probably, which just kind of came out of nowhere, is Take the Long Way Home.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it's so interesting, because you got a harmonica, you have a saxophone, you got a really great arrangement. So it's even back then, I remember when it came out, it was just kind of an interesting sound
mm-hmm.
amidst everything else that was going on at the time. In '79, there was just a lot of great music coming out. A lot of peak albums were there. You had Pink Floyd, The Wall. You had Fleetwood Mac, Tusk. You had Eagles, The Long Run. I mean, Van Halen was in the mix.
AC/DC.
AC/DC, The Police's first album. So there was a lot of different things going on, but nothing. They were kind of unique unto themselves, I think, Chris.
Well, I mean, and to your point, like you were talking about, Take the Long Way Home. What I think is great is that like you have all of these songs with all of these like crazy arrangements and different instrumentation and all that kind of stuff, and then it just kind of, after you get through Take the Long Way Home, it all kind of stops and he does that song Lord Is It Mine.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it just like, what made it stand out is its simplicity. It's mostly just
a ballad.
Roger Hodgson and his voice, and it's just this pretty piano line and his voice, like, just very understated, and I love the way the track listing and the album order really kind of flows, and I think that's in such a perfect spot on the record.
Yeah, because on the second side, after Take the Long Way Home, they start to land it.
Yeah,
they kind of it really is kind of they kind of front load you through the first like 3/4 of the album, and then like you said, once once you get to Lord Is It Mine, things get a little more pensive. Because you have just Another Nervous Wreck, Casual Conversations, Child of Vision, and those are those are not the hits, but they're great. It's a great sequencing, like you said, and it's just a great way to kind of bring the album home as well, and kind of show the other side of Supertramp that we can do the pop hits and they are fantastic and they're super catchy, and then we've got this other side, Some of the user reviews I read is a couple of people were like, God, whoever invented the Wurlitzer piano, I want to kill them. Because it's so prominent on this album, right? It's such an electric
they both use
piano heavy.
They do.
They both use it.
Yeah,
it's funny.
Yeah,
it's
so
like it's very consistent album in its instrumentation. Prominent, those keyboards, like they're pretty much in every song, almost, pretty much the same, they're not trying to do something different for each track. They're just sort of like, I mean, the arrangements and all that, but I'm just talking about the overall sound.
Yeah, there's a uniformity of sound for sure.
I just love it. I think it's one of the finest keyboard centric albums in rock.
Or do you mean like electric piano?
Piano,
or,
like right. Exactly.
That really is that is like the star.
Yeah.
Of this album, which really kind of
very light touch.
Kind of grounds
very
it.
Light touch, and they're not really doing anything like super fancy like they've done on previous records. You get those wonderful, like, little intros and it'll like noodling and that kind of, which they're obviously capable of doing, so you take a song like Lord It Is It Mine, and like Chris said, the simplicity of that almost sounds to me like almost like a Harry Nilsson type of thing. Like he's just going like that high voice and that sort of very jarring after what you've just heard from all of side one, and then take The Long Way Home, which is, one of the longest tracks on the record. And again, all the different changes, and then to go into that such sweet, simple,
but it fits where it is though.
But it just works.
Because I think they kind of barrel through the first 6 or 7 songs. They really kind of,
to me,
are pushing through, like the compositions and the music is really moving forward. Like each song is really kind of pushing forward. And like I said, after Take the Long Way Home, they start to kind of put the landing gear down. You start to, kind of slow the airspeed, right? And you're kind of bringing it in, which is nice. I instead of throwing some of those songs in between, I think it would kill some of the momentum that's built on it. And I think it's a perfect way to kind of give you those songs as like a soft cushion.
But I think it also speaks to the time too, this late 70s, like it's almost less. Side 2 is, aside from the first track and the last track, which is, if there's one song that you could say is Prague, it's Child Division. Yep. It is, the length, you pretty much got those elements there. But 79, they're coming out of that sort of Prague era, and they weren't really doing a lot of that, what like you pointed out, Dean, what other bands were doing, but still very much stuck in that, lyrics were probably a little bit more, perhaps a little more bleak and, sort of kind of, stranger than what's on this record. And so I think critics even pointed that out too. It's like, they're finally singing about something. And I think it had a lot to do with them both moving to LA, the American experience sort of, taking hold, and it's not a concept album. People think it is, but it's not. It just sort of like speaks to, the American thing, and not necessarily a great thing, or like, it's like the American dream kind of thing, or going to Hollywood. Still very, there's some, cynicism there, but it's just sort of, but truth, finally we're singing about something that people can relate to rather than,
it's very reflective. Like the logical song is him reflecting back on, things in his life and, the things that people told him about what life is supposed to be growing up, or Gone Hollywood, how people, go out to Hollywood to try and find fame and fortune, and then they end up just waiting tables at a restaurant. Like it's just kind of reflecting on their life and the experiences that people go through in life.
Yeah, and the funny thing about the title track, Breakfast in America, I mean, he had written that or started writing it when he was 19. He started that in 1969. He started demoing it. So it wasn't a statement on current affairs. It was a 19-year-old kid, he said, imagining someone what it's like to experience America for the first time.
Right. And it was Rick Davies who didn't want it on the album, not Roger Hodgson. I was wrong.
Yeah. There you go. See, so that's the title track. So kind of need it on there.
It's such a great song too. Like
put it on there.
It really is. Yeah.
What's that?
It's such a great song.
Oh yeah, it has a feel to it. That usually Roger's voice is used for sweeter type lyrics, or like Chris, like you said, more reflective lyrics, like the Logical song. But the way Breakfast in America starts off, take a look at my girlfriend. She's the only one I got. Not much of a girlfriend. Never seem to get a lot. That's a little darker for normally him, normally Rick Davies kind of takes the more cynical approach to things. So to have Roger have that, again, the way that song starts off, it has a little bit of like a little bit of a snarl to it, a little cynicism there, which I like from him, because, you know, it is that they are literally like a Lennon and McCartney thing where one is kind of a little more realistic and one's a little more hopeful. And like I said, when they're singing together, you know, like Goodbye Stranger, like I said before, it's just really great. It's such a, because their voices are so different, they're not close. They're not like mirroring each other in any way. And they don't really sing together either that much. You hear it a little bit, but I like that. I like that point counterpoint of the dynamic of the band that they have, you know, so you're not getting two guys that are just always really happy about stuff, because that would get boring, you know? So I like that there's a little bit of a kind of darker undertone. And then there's some hopeful stuff, and some, you know, Roger's more the philosophical stuff.
It would probably not play as well if they both were like a Simon and a Garfunkel, where Lennon and McCartney singing together all the time, and they only do that when it's necessary. Yeah. Much like a long guitar solo, or, you know, something. So they do how to kind of bring that in and just apply it to some of the sort of wider songs, you know. And I think it's you know, of course those are the songs that are being played, those are the hits, those are the ones that we know, but you know, but the rest of the album it's again very very different in this, because I forgot all about some of these songs, to be honest. I hadn't heard the album in quite some time. Casual Conversations, Just Another Nervous Wreck. It's like, yeah, you know, I completely forgot about these tracks, you know, because you're always hearing, you know,
the four.
So the big four, you know. So,
and then like Dreamer and Give a Little Bit from like their other,
Give a Little Bit, Bloody Well Right, you know, that kind of stuff. So
It's Raining Again.
Yeah,
that would be their final, or that would be Roger's final, like kind of single that would come out after this, and then Roger would leave. A case where you know, the sum was greater than the parts. Because,
absolutely.
When I remember seeing the video for the first time, and I didn't know who he was, and I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
The video was like 7 minutes long, and I said, I need to have this. I don't know what it is, and I went out and bought the cassette of that and listened to maybe the first 3 songs, but he didn't, you know, for the guy that was quote unquote the voice of all the hits, it didn't, you know, was not able to cash in on that whatsoever. That album just like tanked that he put out.
The one without him didn't do too well. The Cannonball.
Yeah. Brother, Where You Bound.
Yeah.
They actually recorded without him.
Cannonball was a decent song, but yeah, it was like the same thing. It's like they're both missing. Like they, as much as they were not simpatico, I think they both needed each other. Whatever they brought tempering attitudes to each other.
Simpatico to what was required for, you know, again, a very professional environment, and for whatever, you know, whatever, it just, you know, maybe you just get bored or whatever, that kind of thing. Maybe you want something more. Perhaps the differences were just a little too much. You know, say after a while, it's like, okay, you know, maybe we're just too different. Can we bring it together a little bit? Maybe that just didn't happen.
Did.
No. So
they were one of those bands growing up, I could never stand them. Like when their songs came on the radio, it took getting older and being into different kinds of music to really appreciate what it was that they did. And once it clicked. But
this was always,
you know what? I think, Chris, you're absolutely right. I think a lot of people probably feel that way. Because I
felt that way about Steely Dan too. So
because of the Logical song.
Yeah.
You know, you're always going to hear that on oldies radio or whatever pop, you know, hits radio. And it's like, oh, the guy's voice sounds kind of mousy, and it's kind of, you know, it's like a lot, you know, it's a little whiny on its own. I can see where people are like, yeah, that's kind of weird.
And I know this is bad saying, being a fan of both Bob Dylan and Geddy Lee, his voice took a little getting used to.
I always liked his voice. I always thought it's so unique.
But now, but now I like get it. Like it's the same thing for me with the Grateful Dead. When it clicked, and I really did dig it. So
yeah, and that's what I think the secret sauce on this album is the musicianship. It's the arrangements.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's so good.
They're so like the reason why they still play the Logical song is because it's just these are well constructed songs. This was a group that had the ones. They had the bases loaded.
Yeah.
2 outs, 3 balls and 2 strikes, and here comes Breakfast in America, and they swing for the fence, and they nail like I said on this album alone, put them in.
And honestly, they had the goods musically as like musicians. They're obviously very skilled at what they do, and they knew when not to play, which is I think what makes the record work really well as well. Like they kept it concise. They didn't do the prog thing of like the 15-minute song and all that kind of shit. They kept it to like the pop format and did what they do well within the pop format, which is why I think this works as good as it does.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just like I said, especially coming out when it did. The Classic Rock and Culture website has like the top 50 albums.
Yeah,
from 1979, their ranking. This was number 36.
I would have thought higher. Wow.
There's a lot of others. Yeah, I mean, it's questionable. You had powerhouses. You had Christopher Cross's debut album.
Wow.
You had the Final Wings album, Back to the Egg was there. Kiss Dynasty came out, Foreigner Headgate. There was the B-52's debut album. Pat Benatar was starting to take off. Motorhead, Joy Division. Again, much crazy stuff. Michael Jackson, Off the Wall. So you could probably draw, Donna Summer, Bad Girls, which was a double album. So you can probably draw threads between like, okay, there's a lot of like post-punk coming out, or there's a lot of punk, a lot of rock. And like I said, and again, this is kind of like a non-classifiable thing. Like you can't really put them, you could put Kiss Dynasty with the Scorpions, and you could put them with Motorhead.
That's more of a disco record.
You could put Nick Lowe in with Joe Jackson, right? And those albums that came out in 79, but like Supertramp just kind of best engineered non-classical album.
But
it's like that's really kind of what they are.
But you also have the thing too, like this is also a time where like ELP put out this horrible record called Love Beach. You had Yes put out like not one of the this is a point in, right, but and I know like Supertramp kind of is like different because it's like a really really fantastic record, but the point is like this is I think at a point where you have a lot of prog bands trying to figure out what the next step is. And Supertramp
all came to the same conclusion, right? What was it?
Concise, tight songs, and like the only two bands that you
start making music that people want to listen to,
right? But then that's the thing, like, and the only two bands that I really think, at least in '79, by '79 they'd figured it out, is Rush, because they put out Permanent Waves, and you had Breakfast in America by Supertramp. Like those two records did just that. They took what was good about prog and made a pop rock record out of it, and those are the two that I think of automatically from that year that did that very successfully.
I'm sorry, here's a hot take coming in, so if you want to send us some fan mail about it, but it seems like all these prog artists figured out like, let's make our songs shorter and more fun to listen to, and we'll sell records, and they all did it.
You know what, they did sell records in the 70s, but I think happened.
But they all sold they all sold records, but they didn't have monster albums until they decided, let's make music that is shorter and more listenable. I'm just going to use the wrong term, but not that the other stuff wasn't listenable, but you know what I mean when I say that.
Easier to digest.
And we can line up all the usual suspects and all the ones that didn't, like King Crimson didn't do that, and they went into the 80s. They didn't play.
They became like a new wave band
though, as much as with 90125, or with Rush with Exit Stage Left, or any of these prog band, Genesis, all the ones that said we got to kind of shift the sails because we want to make some money now, and they all did it though. But they were like, we can do this, and it's cool. It's cool to make money. It's cool to get Grammys. It's cool to sell millions of records, right? Am I wrong? Or is that too out of a take?
No, it's fair.
I'm not slamming the progressive thing.
No, it's definitely fawer. But
they all came to the same conclusion. It's like
But back then they weren't interested in making hit records. They just wanted to make do what they wanted to do.
So you say.
It was not everything worked, obviously. Right. You know, every album was an experiment, especially in the case of people like Yes and King Crimson. But just to be able to, get that out there, and but then the hit makers started coming in, and you're right, they were like, okay, I'd like to make a hit record. Tony Banks and Mike Rutherford were like, yeah, I'd like to.
Yeah, we're dying for it. They're like, we're dying for it. Like,
Yes did. I mean, Close to the Edge is probably Yes's biggest selling record, isn't it? I mean, and
I think 90215 is probably bigger.
Probably a little bit bigger.
Probably sold a lot more.
Yep.
So the number one album of 1979, according to Classic Rock and Culture, was The Wall.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And then followed by number 2, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Damn the Torpedoes.
That's a great record.
Yeah. Clash, London Calling. Number 4, Into the Outdoor. Number 5, Tusk.
Really?
We can never forget about Tusk on this this podcast. All right, let's talk about. God, favorite tracks. Is there a point, or? I'm going to recommend. If you haven't heard this, just sit down. It's not that long of an album.
No.
Not at all.
It's 46 minutes. So, you'll get it done in less than an hour and have time for a quick power nap before you have to go back to work. So, give the whole thing a listen. But there's 4 hits on it. So, if you were somewhat even acutely aware of music growing up, at some point in your life, you probably heard one of these 4 songs. If you're a person of a certain age, you're going to know all of them. But listen to the rest of the album just because it's so well made. And that's what makes records, again, I think I've said this in the past to Eric. For me, a good sounding album is automatically going to get an extra 2 or 3 like hit points because it's going to be easy for me to listen to. I don't have to struggle to and again, I know sometimes choices are made for a certain production thing, and I get that. But an album like this, when it's beautiful sounding, because of they're using largely acoustic instruments like pianos and wind instruments, you want that to shine. You really want to hear that come through, and again, because it's so unique, Supertramp is such a unique band that there's nothing to do but highlight it. Like there's no other option but to make this the best sounding thing you can, because that's going to bring that song, that sound to the masses.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it is one of the finest sounding records. I think
it's so flawless sounding.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if there was a half speed. I know they did a half speed mastering recently on vinyl, but I wonder if it was half speed mastered when it came out. Would it be interesting to find out for all the vinyl aficionados? If send us a message, send us some fan mail. Okay. Chris, highlights? Or I said, I'm just saying the whole thing. Just do the whole thing.
I mean, for me, I think, the opening track, Gone
Hollywood.
Gone Hollywood. I'm just trying to bring the list up. I really like Breakfast in America is one of my favorites, and Goodbye Stranger is a standout to me. That one really caught my ear this week. I kept going back to that one, and Lord Is It Mine. Those are the ones for me.
Nice. Eric?
Gone Hollywood. I'm going to take all. I mean, the 4 tracks are.
Yeah, that whole first side is pretty perfect.
I'm just going to go. I mean, Gone Hollywood. I like Casual Conversations. I don't know, something about that track. Again, quiet, sort of, and then of course, Child of Vision, I think is tremendous. Great closing. You got to go big or go home kind of thing, and with that. But it's like, I like the fact that the side 2 opens with Take the Long Way Home and then ends with that sort of epic. I like arrangements, man. I like something that just keeps changing throughout. Things like that are just the whole idea of just putting something different in a track, but then hitting it home with Lord Is It Mine. Again, having that song right after Take the Long Way Home was inspired. Inspired.
Yeah,
So
it's amazing.
No, it's a I think it's a flawless record.
Yeah, this is one of those records you put on and you just let it go. Like, especially like I had to do a lot of driving this weekend and I just kept this on and it
audio files.
So
yeah, that's what makes it, that's what leaves it on for someone that doesn't know it. It's just, it sounds so great that you're okay with like letting it roll.
I think people like would agree that this, system. Even if you're not, I don't know anything about Supertramp, I don't want to know anything. I just like this record because it's just good music, kind of thing.
That's it.
It's definitely in that category for me. I mean, I'm not a huge, like, I don't know everything they've done. I don't have all their records, never did. But this one was there, like at the time when it was getting into all this kind of stuff.
I will say, listening to it so much this week, it makes me want to go back and listen to the record that has a whole lot of Give a Little Bit, and then the one that End of the Century, I think it's called, the Crime of the Century.
Crime of the Century.
It made me want to go back and check those records out for sure.
Yeah. One final musing about where Supertramp fits in. It just came to me for some reason. How about this? Can we make a subgenre of music that we're gonna put Steely Dan, Supertramp, and Dire Straits in?
The Doobies too, maybe?
No, Doobies are too much. I think those three bands are so unique, but they all kind of like fit into like an interesting grouping that I think they would be, like Supertramp, Dire Straits, and Steely Dan would be an interesting subgenre.
These were finally, I don't know, too, Alan Parsons' project too.
Yeah, throw them in there. You got it.
Would probably be another. But listen, even some of the pop one-hit wonders of the period too. Like I like listening to things like Al Stewart's "Year of the Cat," and this kind of, to me, that's that kind of shit, right? It's just that song has almost every instrument known to man.
Yeah, it's probably the greatest. If we do greatest songs in the 70s, I'm telling you right now, it's "Year of the Cat."
That used to be like my all-time favorite song as a kid.
Really?
Oh, it's so good.
It always reminded me of Bowie.
Because of that. It starts off very soft, and you have that killer sax. You got synthesizer, you got piano, you got electric
violins.
It's
strings. It's got everything. That song literally has everything, and it's about Casablanca as well. So it's about the movie Casablanca. So it checks off so many boxes for music and movie fans that
But again, it's one of those undefinable things. Like, what is this? Is it pop? Is it rock? Is it is it soft rock?
It's got elements of prog. That's got elements of prog.
Absolutely.
So much.
So to me, it's very much in the same vein.
I'll go get the album. I have it in the back. I have it.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to put it on now.
All right, I think we'll leave it there. I think we've hopefully we've piqued your interest about Supertramp, because we're still kind of talking about them, which is they're very enigmatic. Because they didn't have such a big history, like their stuff was kind of middling, I guess. I'm going to use that term, maybe not popularly, but compared to what this was, again, they, there's the band that does it, and like I said, I always draw it to Steve Miller. He did it, with Book of Dreams. Like, it was like came out of nowhere, and then pound for pound, like every song on that thing is just amazing. And then just kind of went back to, like that, like abracadabra, he disappeared.
That song was like a number one hit, though, wasn't it?
It was.
Right,
yeah.
Abracadabra was number one, but
crazy.
It was called like a musical pun.
Yes, I get it.
Some punnage for the dad. Anyway, we're gonna leave it there. If you go, we got bad news for you. If you listen to this on YouTube Music, you're gonna get like 5 songs, and they're not gonna be the hits.
Yeah.
So we're going to recommend you, if you go to YouTube, though, and you look up Supertramp and you go to their video channel, they have a playlist of all the songs there for some reason. So you can check the album out that way. It's on Spotify. It's on all the streamers. It's been released so many different times on vinyl. It's gotten multiple re-releases, and on CD, it's gotten multiple re-releases and remasters. So you can really pick your poison. I don't think you're going to go wrong with any of them, because from the ground up, this was an album that didn't need remastering, honestly.
No, it didn't. Absolutely not.
It's kind of like, what are you going to do to it? Some people have said it has actually opened up the sound field for them even a little bit more, which is kind of hard to believe. If you listen to this on vinyl, it's just kind of, it's there, the whole thing. But people have said it's some of the, depending on the remaster, because it's been done a few times, there are certain ones that really kind of open it up. So
And if you go onto YouTube, there's a really great concert from the tour in '79, I think, from Paris. That's really cool to check out.
Yeah, they've upscaled them to 4K, which means they used AI, so sometimes the faces look a little weird, like the background faces look melted, but it's okay.
Yeah.
The music is good though.
You gotta take
like 4 fingers and
yeah, it looks like a lobster claw.
Yeah.
Like, what? The guy's playing the piano like this, with like fingers melded together. Anyway, that's going to do it for this episode of the 3324 podcast. Go ahead and check us out on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. We're there. You'll see when new episodes come out. But again, hit the fan mail. That's like a direct line. That is literally like a can and a piece of string from you to us, where you can let us know your thoughts about this episode or any of our other episodes. We'd love to hear about it as well. So go ahead, do that. And then while you're at it, just if you're new, give us a follow. This way you'll know when new episodes come out and you can kind of pick and choose. We've got so much great content coming up too. We've got stuff that we're working on, stuff we've recorded already. That's great. And we're not having breakfast in America because we're too busy making podcast episodes. I like that.
So dedicated are you?
Yes.
I'm dedicated to the,
to the cause.
The dad joke.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that's going to do it. Thanks for checking us out again. The album is Supertramp Breakfast in America from 1979. And that's going to do it for us. So Chris Clark, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
For sitting in once again. We appreciate it.
I enjoyed revisiting that record. It was
it's a good one. I think it's an understated classic. I think it's one, just to tie it up, it's one that was so huge at the time, kind of like Bryan Adams' Reckless, that people just kind of don't talk about anymore. It kind of did its thing, and then just kind of like people moved on. So I really would urge people to check this out because it's a really interesting listen, and it's just a great, solid, consistent album. So that's going to do it for Chris, for Eric. This has been Dean, and we will catch you on the flip side.
You've been listening to the 3324 podcast with Dean Legiro and Eric Kuber. You can find us on your favorite podcast provider, so please like, subscribe, and rate to become a part of the 3324 family. Your feedback is important, so make sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at 3324 podcast and on Twitter at 3324p to join the conversation.